Donald Trump is a genocidal fascist. Don't believe me? Just look at how he talks about immigrants.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
This is no different than the way Hitler talked about the Jews. And just like in Nazi Germany, these kinds of lies, dehumanization, and scapegoating is the battering ram of a whole fascist program. And it's worth noting that one of the main ways the Nazis demonized Jews is by portraying them as a bunch of criminals preying upon the good Aryan Germans. Now let's look at what the fascists in this country are doing even before Trump takes power.
The House passed the Laken Riley Act Tuesday, nearly a year after the Georgia nursing student was killed by an undocumented immigrant. The bill allows Immigration and Customs Enforcement to arrest and possibly deport undocumented immigrants charged with theft.
Naming this bill after Laken Riley is nothing but Nazi propaganda. White people and native-born Americans commit far more crimes proportionally than immigrants. But you don't hear these fascists talking about rounding them up and deporting them, do you? And think about what this bill says, that undocumented immigrants who are charged with nonviolent crimes like shoplifting get deported. Not convicted of crimes, but charged with crimes. Think about what that means. You go to Walmart and someone accuses you of stealing something, or maybe the cashier doesn't scan something by accident and it buzzes on your way out of the store, and then all of a sudden you get deported, torn away from your family, your job, your life here because of an accusation. This is not due process. And yes, by the way, due process is supposed to apply to everyone residing in this country. This is fascism, and 48 Democrats signed on to it.
Criminal illegal aliens, yet people keep writing undocumented whatever. Criminal illegal aliens at the expense of law-abiding Americans. It's no longer going to be tolerated.
48 Democrats joined Republicans in voting for the legislation.
Another example of why we can't rely on the Democrats. They will not fight this fascism the way it needs to be fought, and in many cases, they're facilitating it. Now, to be clear, some Democratic Party officials are resisting Trump's mass deportation plans with local sanctuary policies that protect undocumented immigrants in various ways and prevent local police from cooperating with federal immigration agents. And these officials, too, have become targets of the Trump regime.
Tonight, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, threatens to put the Democratic mayor of Denver in jail. This comes after the mayor, who's my next guest, talked about resisting federal forces trying to carry out mass deportations.
It's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal illegal aliens from immigration authorities. Don't test us.
A warning to sanctuary cities from incoming border czar Tom Homan.
One of the places where this is being battled out right now is in San Diego, where the county supervisors recently strengthened their sanctuary policies, and the local sheriff responded by vowing to defy them. One of the county supervisors who sponsored the sanctuary resolution, Nora Vargas, received all kinds of hate comments and death threats, as well as the threat of legal prosecution from Stephen Miller. And then a couple weeks ago, she abruptly resigned, citing personal safety concerns.
Well, today is the final day in office for County Supervisor Nora Vargas. She abruptly resigned, citing personal safety and security reasons.
The RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity in Los Angeles knew we had to get down to San Diego right away. Last week, we did this protest right outside the sheriff's office.
Round up the sheriffs! Round up the sheriffs! Not the immigrants! Not the immigrants!
Today, a handful of protesters rallied in front of the downtown jail, calling for the sheriff's department not to comply with the incoming Trump administration's immigration policy. Trump is vowing to implement the largest mass deportation operation ever. Today's protesters are calling for people to literally stand in the way.
And that means mobilizing, protesting, taking to the streets, defending immigrants when these raids happen after Trump takes power.
The protesters say they are followers of communist leader Bob Avakian.
And this week, we drove down to speak at the county supervisors meeting. On the ride down, we had a really good discussion about what's at stake here and how it's not just, oh, who cares about this division within the government? They're all the same anyway. No, they're not all the same. There are real differences within the ruling structures over how to run this system. And these sanctuary policies, as limited as they are a reflection of those differences. And they also matter for people's lives. If the fascist section of the ruling class is able to crush sanctuary cities, counties, and states, it will have terrible consequences for immigrants and for humanity. It will be part of locking down a fascist America. On the other hand, if people rally to the defense of all those under attack by these MAGA fascists, trans people, immigrants, and yes, public officials who are being attacked for defending them, this can inspire millions and strengthen people's backbone for the fight to defeat fascism, and ultimately the fight for revolution. This struggle of the people from below can interact with these sharp divisions within the ruling class in dynamic and unpredictable ways that open up more possibility for advancing the struggle. And no one can say in advance how far that struggle can go. So with all this in mind, Michelle Chai delivered this passionate speech at the board meeting. Let's watch.
Hi, my name is Michelle Chai. I'm here with the RevCon Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity. We face a very serious situation in this country with a fascist regime coming to power in 2 weeks, going after millions of immigrants first and crushing any opposition to this from sanctuary cities, counties, and states. We see this in the sheriffs here vowing to collaborate with ICE in open violation of sanctuary policies and state law. And we see this in the legal and physical threats against Nora Vargas and the fact that she resigned for her own safety. This should be a wake-up call, not just for San Diego, but for the whole country. This is a time for courage, a time to defend the rights and lives of the people under attack by Trump MAGA fascists, whether they're immigrants or public officials who are trying to protect immigrants.
After she spoke, a reporter came up to us wanting to know more, as did a local activist who then took us out to the border wall where she gives assistance to immigrants through the holes in the wall. We're going to show some of this in a minute, but before we do, I just want to emphasize the need for this kind of action, defending the rights and lives of those under attack and calling forward millions to join the fight to defeat this fascism. These kinds of actions need to happen now, tomorrow, and the day after. We can't wait until Trump is inaugurated. But then when he is on January 20th, the protests need to take a leap. This is what everyone who refuses to accept a fascist America needs to be part of doing right now. Let's watch Carl Dix calling out Trump and bootlicker New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. No hate, no fear. Every decent person must respect and defend the rights of our immigrant sisters and brothers. Fascist Trump, bootlicker Eric Adams, keep your hands off at the immigrants. No human being is illegal. It's this system that's rotten and illegitimate. We demand and we need a whole new way to live, a fundamentally different system.
Now let's go back to the border near San Diego. This was a really moving experience. Seeing the conditions of these immigrants in open air detention, some of them trapped for weeks in this little area between the actual border fence and the new border wall built by Trump, sleeping on the ground out in the cold. One woman we talked to was pregnant with a dangerous blood pressure condition and had hurt her ankle coming over the border wall.
What kind of country, what kind of system creates the conditions where people have to flee their hometowns and have to come, their home countries to have to come and have to live through something like this? To have mothers and babies and children have to sleep on that floor, and you just look at that floor it's hurting my feet just standing on these rocks. I can't even fucking imagine having to sleep on a floor like this. Look at the reality of what it means when this country that is called the greatest of all countries, creates the conditions that people have to go through all of this and then treats them like animals, and then all the descriptions you're talking about of the border patrol just treating them like animals. How many head injuries and neck injuries he was treating from people falling from from this wall, right? And you were walking through this shit is conscious. It was built consciously to to kill people, like that, like having people like feel that rage and like unnecessariness, and I mean, we're here, we're seeing it, we feel that rage, but like getting other people to kind of like feel that and actually act on it, it fucking matters to have like, when you're crossing here, to see like a friendly face, to kind of see somebody that's like, take some water, have a snack, like, use the bathroom, like to actually feel like there are other human beings here, and not just like these fucking pig border patrol that just treats them like shit, but like, like you said, not just creating a better condition here, but like actually, like ending it, and from where coming from, and putting an end to the whole system that like creates these conditions, so that nobody ever has to like go through this again,
Another guy we talked to shared his story coming up from South America over the Darien Gap, watching people die along the way in the mud, then getting kidnapped twice in Mexico and extorted for money, his wife threatened with rape. All this just so he could come and survive and have a better life and escape the poverty and violence in his country caused by this imperialist system, above all the U.S. Let's watch a clip of this conversation. And as you watch our friend here speaking from us from behind the bars of this border wall, ask yourself, who are the real criminals? And what will you do to bring into being a world where this kind of unnecessary suffering is abolished and replaced by a world where we work together for the common good, without walls or borders between us?
La selva del Darién es algo muy triste. Yo pude ver una niña que falleció, pude ver 2 señoras que fallecieron. La selva del Darién es algo que uno no puede explicar, pero es algo muy cruel. Es algo muy cruel ver familias con 3, con 4 niños buscando escapar de la pobreza, de la violencia. El resto de los países, la misma policía, la misma guardia, lo extorsiona a uno. Yo pienso que México es lo más difícil de todo esto, porque en México te persigue migración, te extorsiona migración. Aparte de eso están los carteles. A mí me secuestraron pasando de Ciudad Hidalgo a Tapachula. Nos secuestraron a 300 personas que íbamos juntas, más o menos 280. A mí personalmente me pidieron $2,000. Vieron una foto de mi esposa y querían que mi esposa se viniera hasta Ciudad de México para poder soltarme a mí. Pues obviamente les dije que no, pero la idea de ellos era que mi esposa se quedara acá con ellos. Entonces son momentos de mucha angustia, de mucha tristeza. Al final ya pudimos caminar casi 1 día y medio sin comer nada, sin tomar agua, porque ya llevo casi 3 meses en demasiada oscuridad, guerreando, luchando, intentando salir adelante, extrañando a la familia, recibiendo desprecio, recibiendo tantas cosas que es muy denigrante al final para uno como ser humano, porque todos somos personas y al final es muy denigrante todo lo que uno vive por todo este camino. Y el pensamiento de ustedes lo comparto totalmente y me siento totalmente identificado, porque también quisiera un mundo sin fronteras. Somos seres humanos con valores, con sueños, y realmente todo esto son impedimentos para nosotros mismos, para la gente. Para ellos no, ellos están allá tranquilos, pero para uno es un impedimento, para uno es humillación. Esto es humillación. Aquí parado al rayo del sol, hablándole a usted por un huequito, porque no, esto es humillación y esto no debería existir.
There's a land, so I've been told. Every street is paved with gold, and it's just across the borderline. And when it's time to take your turn, here's a lesson you must learn. You will lose more than you'll ever hope to find. And when you reach the broken promised land, every dream slips through your hand, and you'll know it's too late to change your mind. 'Cause you paid the price to come this far, just to wind up where you are, and you still just across the borderline.
Up and down the Rio Grande, 1,000 footprints in the sand reveal a secret no one can define. The river flows on like a bridge between our life and death. Now tell me who will cross the borderline.
And when you reach the broken promised land, every dream slips through your hand, and you know it's too late to change your mind. 'Cause you paid the price to come this far, just to wind up where you are, and you still just across the border.